Hello everyone, this is Manohar Reddy, Department of Cybersecurity, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. Today I am going to explain the concept of PGP, the introduction of PGP. So generally PGP is nothing but pretty good privacy. So it is one type of service, we can call it as one type of service, one type of mechanism, and it is an encryption process. You can say anything in the security point of view. It provides as a service, it provides as a mechanism. So here the definition of PGP. So pretty good privacy. So PGP stands for what? Pretty good privacy. It is an encryption program that provides cryptographic privacy and authentication for data communication. So it is an encryption program. So PGP is an encryption program that provides a cryptographic privacy and authentication for data communication. So we all know that there are different types of security services actually. So in that, all the services, authentication is one service, confidentiality is one service, integrity is one service, non-repudiation is one service. So these are all the different security services, different types of security services. So here the PGP provides, it is an encryption program. Because of that encryption program, it provides a cryptographic privacy, that is nothing but indirectly confidentiality, cryptographic privacy and authentication for data communication. So data communication is nothing but you are going to communicate with the help of data to the hosts or to the network. So during the two missions, during the two networks, all they are communicated with the help of data. So here the data can be shareable for one system or another system, and data can be transferred to one system to another system. So that is all in the point of view communication, which provides a privacy and authentication. It is the main role of data communication. So without privacy and without authentication, the data is hacked by hackers. So there is no guarantee of the data which is safe. So by providing this PGP encryption program, it provides a cryptographic privacy and authentication. So confidentiality of the data as well as authentication of the data has to be occurred during the data communication. And PGP used for signing, to do the digital signing process, to do the digital signature verification process, and the encryption process, and decrypting texts, emails, files, directories, and whole disk partitions, and to increase the security of email communication. So email communication is nothing but we are going to communicate with other person by writing the mails or by transferring the mails. In that, there are two types of mails actually. There are two types of mails the users are going to write. One is normal mails they can write. And the second one is secure mails they can write. So here, to increase the security of email communication, this PGP is used. And it is not only for security, it is also for digital signing of the data, encrypting the data, decrypting the text, emails, files, directories, everything you have to keep as a privacy and authentication purpose. And a pretty good privacy is an encryption system. You can call it as either it is an encryption system or it is an encryption program or encryption service, encryption mechanism used for both sending encrypted mails and encrypting sensitive files. So to writing that security mails, you can encrypt both mails as well as encrypting files also. One is encrypting mails And the second one is encrypting files also. We are writing the mails in two ways. One is without files attachment we can write the mail, and second one is with attachments we can write the file. We can write the mail. So at that moment it provides encryption system. At that moment it provides encryption system. That encryption system is used for both sending encrypted mails as well as encrypted sensitive files, encrypting sensitive files, so that the other user, third party user cannot able to access these mails as well as access these files. He wants to access these files by applying the decryption process. Without applying the decryption process, without knowing the decryption key, he or she cannot able to log in the mails. He or she cannot able to view the mails or be able to view the files also. So the popularity of PGP is based on two factors. The first that is the system was originally available as freeware. The system was originally available as freeware and so spread rapidly among users who wanted an extra level of security for their email messages. The first thing is what the system was originally available as a freeware. As a freeware, that is one type of service to provide a security for the extra, to provide an extra level of security for writing the mails. The first one is what? That is one factor to writing mails securely, to send data securely, to communicate with the other person securely or privacy. So that is the first factor, writing the mails securely. For that purpose, providing extra level of security for the mails. And the second is that since PGP uses both symmetric encryption and public encryption, it allows users who have never met to send an encrypted message to each other without exchanging private encryption keys. So those who wants to use asymmetric encryption and public encryption, it allows users to send encrypted messages to each other without exchanging private encryption. So they wants to see the files or they wants to see the mails by applying some symmetric encryption keys. That means the user wants to send a mail to the other user. At that moment, he can encrypt the data and apply the keys and gives the keys to the destination side or host B, so that other person can able to read that file by applying the keys. So these two factors, because of these two factors, PGP has become a popularity. So this is the definition and this is the basic introduction of PGP. And how does PGP encryption work actually? So we already said that PGP is an encryption process or encryption system that we can write the mails and we can encrypt the files securely or confidentially or privacy. But how actually PGP works? So PGP shares some features with other encryption systems. You may have heard of like Kerberos is one type of PGP service. Kerberos encryption, as well as Mail VLOP. Mail VLOP is also one type of service which provides a PGP service to transfer the data to the end-to-end communication with the help of security and confidentiality. So here, Kerberos encryption, which is used to authenticate network users, and the SSL encryption process also, which is used to secure the websites, our websites. At basic level, the PGP encryption uses a combination of two forms of encryption. So one is symmetric key encryption and public key encryption. So in order to understand how PGP works, it's useful to look at the diagram. So how it works based on the symmetric key encryption and public key encryption. How it works, we'll see in this diagram. We'll see in this diagram. So here, how PGP encryption works actually. So here the user is A and the other user is B. One user is what? A, and the other user is B. So those two users wants to send or receive the mails securely. Send or receives the mails securely, and they wanted to see the contents of the files also. Contents of the files also. So here they can apply the symmetric encryption process as well as public key encryption process. One is symmetric key encryption process and public key encryption process. So here there are two types of keys. One is symmetric keys. One is symmetric keys. Second one is asymmetric keys. One is symmetric keys and second one is asymmetric key. What is meant by symmetric key? So the symmetric key is nothing but the same key. Symmetric key is nothing but the same key that applies for both encryption and decryption process. For applying both encryption and decryption process. So to do this encryption and decryption process, we are using a same key. We are using the same key that may either private key or that may either public key. So that key is called as symmetric key. That key is called as symmetric key. But in the asymmetric key, the name itself asymmetric. For encryption, we use one key. For encryption, we use like private key, public key. And for the decryption, we use private key. For the decryption, we use private key. So for encryption, we use public key. For decryption, we use private key. So to do this encryption and decryption process, we are using a different keys. But for both encryption and decryption process, we are using same key. The name itself symmetric key encryption. And if we use both keys like public key and private key for both encryption and decryption process, we are using asymmetric key. So now from this figure, from this diagram, we understand that how PGP encryption works. So here user A and user B. So user A wants to send user B a private mail. So now what user A wants to send a private mail to the user B. So to send that private mail to the B user, that mail has to be PGP service enabled. Mail. So if the both users, both A and B mails are encrypted mails or PGP service enabled mails, then they can able to share their files or share their mails securely, and they can able to write private mails also. So see here, user A wants to send user B a private mail. So the condition is what? To send that private mail to the B, the both user A and user B are PGP service enabled mail or PGP service enabled users. If and only if they are the PGP service enabled users, they will become a senders or receivers of private mails. So now the first step is what? User A wants to send user B a private mail. So user B generates a public and a private key. So before sending the private mail, what user B actually doing? User B is generating a public key and a private key, both by doing some algorithms or by doing some cryptographic functions, by using some encryption key managements. So use that all the techniques, all the mechanisms. The B generates a public and a private key. Both they are generated. Now user B keeps the private key and sends back the public key. So now user B generated both public and private key, but user B keeps the private key with himself and send the public key back to the A. Now user A received that file or received that mail as well as received that public key. So user A encrypt their message using the public key. So now user A wants to send a mail to the B. User A wants to send the mail or file to the B. At this moment, user A encrypts their message. What he wants to send the message, what he want to send the file to the user B is going to be encrypted. Is going to be encrypted. So with the help of this public key, he can able to encrypt that mail as well as file. So now user A sends the private encrypted message. Now he applied encryption process on the mail or file. After applying the encryption process, user A sends the private encrypted message to the user B. Now user A sent that message to the B. Now user B have already private key, right? So user B already have private key. So now user B receives that mail. After receiving that mail, user B decrypting that message with the private key. User B decrypting that message with the private key. So this is the way encryption process works. So here generation of the keys is very important. So here user B actually generated the both keys, and one key, that is public key, sends back to the A. Now user A uses the public key. User A uses the public key to do the encryption process. And sends that mail or file to the user B. Now user B receives that mail. After received that mail, he decrypts that message with the private key as is already with him. So whatever the private key is already having, with that private key he can able to decrypt the data so that the files or mail will be opened. So by providing this encryption process, there is no loss of the data, or the third person has to be entered and modified the data. So because of that providing encryption process, we can say that the data is very confidential and very authenticated. So here at the highest level, this is how the PGP encryption works actually. The first step is what? PGP generate a random session key using some algorithms. PGP generates a random session key using certain algorithms. This key is a huge number of that cannot be guessed. So this generate random session key is a complicated, is not at all having a numbers. It is not at all having a alphabets. Is not at all having a small letters. Is not at all having a symbols as well as. This random session key is combination of this all the data. This random session key is having all the combination of this data. So after random session key generated, this key it is only used. Once. And the next this session key is encrypted. This random session key which is generated already has to encrypt it by using public key or private key. So the session key is encrypted. This is done using the public key of the intended recipient of the message. So this is done what? The session key is encrypted with the help of this public key, intended recipient of the message. So in the previous figure, that is what we said here. The B user sends public key back to the A. So now A uses this public key, he encrypted the message. He encrypted the message. So that is what we mentioned here. This is done using the public key of the intended recipient of the message. The public key is tied to particular person's identity. And anyone can use it to send them a message. The sender sends their encrypted PGP session key to the recipient. The sender sends their encrypted PGP session key to the recipient, and they are able to decrypt it using their private key. So using the private key, he can able to decrypt the data. So after sending the mail or file to the recipient able to decrypt it using their private key. So using this session key, the recipient is now able to decrypt the actual message. So that is the use of this session key or random session key or public or private keys. So by providing encryption process, the data which is transferred from source to destination or mail 1 to mail 2 is safe and secure. Is safe and secure. And the PGP encryption uses. So the main uses of PGP encryption is what? The first one is what? Sending and receiving encrypted mails. Sending and receiving encrypted mails. So that encrypted is nothing but wrap up of data with the keys. Wrap up of data with the keys. So without that keys applying, you are not able to see the data. You are not able to see the data. So sending and receiving encrypted mails is the first advantage and main use. And the second one is what? Verifying the ID of encrypted message sender. Verifying the ID. So the mail ID. The mails actually which starts with any other letters or numbers and ending with the particular mail service provider. So suppose abc@gmail.com, xyz@yahoo.com, or 123@rediffmail.com. These are all the mails. So from sender to receiver, the mails are forwarded. At this moment, the mail has to be verifying. The mails has to be verifying the ID of encryption process. Verifying the ID of encrypted message sender. And third one is what? Encrypting files stored on your devices or the cloud. So encrypting the files stored on your devices or the cloud. So you are going to upload the data to send the mail, right? So at that moment you are going to encrypt your data. So you are encrypting to writing secure mails. You are encrypting both. Mail has to be encrypted. Mail is encrypted, and the second one is data also encrypted. So this data is in file, right? This data is in file. So that means directly the file is encrypted. So now file is encrypted as well as mail is encrypted. So the file is from where you browse it from. It actually, we browsed the file from local system. That is on my system. So that file also has to be encrypted. That encrypting files is stored on our devices or the cloud. So here there are essentially these three uses. One is what? Sending and receiving encrypted mails, and verifying the identity of the person who has sent you this message, and encrypting files stored on your devices or in the cloud. So either files or data is from your devices or other cloud. So all the data has to be encrypted. By providing that session keys. So this session key contains what? All the different combination of alphabets, numbers, characters, special characters, everything. All these numbers, alphabets, characters are included in the session key. So that after generating the session key, the user can able to apply the public key to do the encryption process. After doing that encryption process, the other user can use the decryption key for the decryption process. So this is all done with the help of cryptographic functions. So once again we will revise the topics which we discussed in this session. So the first one is what? PGP. So introduction to PGP. So what is the definition of PGP actually? So we already said that the PGP is an encryption program or encryption system used for both sending mails and receiving mails. Sending mails and receiving mails with the encrypted mails. With the encrypted mails as well as encrypted sensitive files also. So we are writing mails in two ways actually. One is normal way we can write and a secure way we can write. In the security way also we can write the mails in two ways. One is without file attachments and with file attachments. But anyway we can provide the encryption for both sending mail as well as sending file also. We can write we can use the encryption process for both sending mails as well as sending files. But how what is the popularity of to become this much of popular in PGP means the first one is what sending mails and sending mails with the extra layer of security. Sending mails with the extra layer of security. But here the sending mails with extra layer of security. For the second one, that security is provided with the help of some encrypted messages. That security is provided with the help of some encrypted processes or encrypted techniques. So that encrypted techniques are nothing but generating keys, generating cryptographic keys. So how the PGP actually works? So there are two users are there, A and B. They can use the secure mails writing to the destination side. That means the user A and user B wants to share their mails or transfer their mails. Before transferring the mails, they can use the public and private keys as a symmetric and asymmetric keys. So with the help of the symmetric and asymmetric keys, they can able to send mails or send files with the encrypted way. That is nothing but with the secure way or confidential way. So there are two types of keys are there actually. One is symmetric key and the second one is asymmetric key. One is symmetric key as well as asymmetric key. So the symmetric key is nothing but what to do the encryption and decryption process. They use the same key. But for the asymmetric process, asymmetric key is nothing but we use the different keys for both encryption as well as decryption. So for the encryption is one key, that is public key, and for the decryption is one key, that is private key. So using this type of symmetric keys and asymmetric keys, the user A or user B can send their mails with securely. So here the how PGP encryption works, that what we actually seen in the previous slide. So here generating keys with the help of both public and private keys, generating keys, random session keys. So which random session key contains all the numbers, alphabets, characters and everything. So with the help of that random session key, we are going to give a public key as well as private key. These two have to give the encryption for both encryption and decryption process. So this is about the PGP encryption works and PGP. So in the real-time environment, the users in the organizations, all the organizations can able to send their mails to the remote locations or remote users with the help of both encryption process, with the help of both encryption and decryption process. So, but before sending that encrypted mails or encrypted files, both user A and user B has to PGP service enabled. If those two PGP service enabled, they can use the encryption and decryption process with the help of generating these random session keys. So that's all about this PGP encryption process and definition of PGP and what is the uses of encryption process and how does PGP works actually. That's all about this PGP encryption process. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.